It is win or go home for the Las Vegas Raiders as we travel on the road against the #1 team in the NFL, Joe Burrow, and the Cincinnati Bengals trying to lock up the 1 seed and home field advantage throughout the playoffs. And to do that, they have to take on the Raiders, who are in a win and in situation to try to fight for that final seed in the wild card race. It is very simple for us. Win and we take a trip to potentially Cincinnati or Kansas City to do it all over again. And if we lose, we're out. It's as simple as that. The Raiders control their own destiny, and the Bengals trying to get the #1 seed. It is going to be a massive Week 18 matchup between the Raiders and the Bengals up next. It will be Joe Burrow and the Bengals offense taking the field first, and you got a little peek at what his numbers were, but yes, you read those correctly. It was 35 touchdowns to just 3 interceptions. Burrow is in MVP form, and there's a reason why the Bengals are the top team in the league as he starts the game off with a handoff to Joe Mixon, who is patient with his run and finds a lane to get a good gain on the first play of the game. Very patient running from Joe Mixon, but on the second play, less patience from the Bengals offense as a whole, as it's going to be a false start, and it sets the Bengals back to 1st and 15 under center. Joe Burrow will drop to throw, and he is going to roll right. Throw across his body, and that's a great throw and catch to Tyler Boyd. As you do remember in the end of last episode, I did say that the Bengals are without Jamar Chase this game. It's going to be Tyler Boyd and T. Higgins. And speaking of T. Higgins, he's got a catch, and T. Higgins is gone. Touchdown, Bengals. I said it's going to be T. Higgins who has to step up as the #1 receiver, and he does just that with a long touchdown on the first drive. As now Deshaun in the offense, they are probably not too happy. Last week we gave up an long touchdown to Travis Kelce, and now T. Higgins goes deep on our defense, and this already awful pass defense is just falling apart at the end of the season. We need to keep it together to try to make this playoff run as we go Josh Jacobs on the first carry of the game, and Josh Jacobs will have himself a 13-yard pickup. And now we go handoff back to Jacobs, and it gets blown up this time. Jermaine Pratt got in there. Deshaun has to throw for the first time this game as he throws left side. That's Jacoby Myers, and I don't think he was ready for it. It hits him in his 3rd down. Deshaun to throw, goes back outside again, and this time he just misses the pass. Jacoby Myers, this isn't the first time he wasn't ready for a football thrown his way this season. You don't want to give Burrow too many opportunities as now he drops back and throws outside. That's the first-round tight end, Sean Samuel, who's been incredible this season. And Samuel's really added an element to this passing game that has made it somehow even more dangerous, which is why maybe the Bengals are put over the top as the #1 team in the NFL, as Joe Mixon on the carry gets the first down just barely. As shotgun, we throw it, and that's going to be Tyler Boyd. But you know the struggles that this team has had covering tight ends, and having to face another great tight end this week. Sean Samuel is maybe primed for a big game as there's Samuel with his 2nd catch of the drive. It's going to be 2nd and 7. Burrow quick outside. There's T. Higgins, and T. Higgins already got him in the red zone at the 12-yard line, and Burrow is moving with ease. Throw outside. There's Joe Mixon breaking a tackle, and Mixon to the 1-yard line. Now goal line package, play action. Burrow picked off. Divine Diablo picks it off, and he took it out of the end zone. That was a risky one. Sets us down at the 1-yard line, but for the 4th time this season, Joe Burrow's picked off, and it comes in a big spot of the game. Now Deshaun at his own 1-yard line takes a QB draw, and that's a bold call, but it works and gets us to the 11. Now we have some space to work with as Josh Jacobs has a carry for 3. That's a bold call at the 1-yard line. But we trust Deshaun, as Deshaun now will throw. And that's a dangerous bullet. It's caught. That's about as good of a throw as you can make in that situation. And it's caught by Sharu. Deshaun on the keeper loses a yard. 2nd and 11. Now he keeps it again, and he loses a yard. Maybe got back to the line of scrimmage. It's 3rd and 11. Deshaun now running around, and he's hit as he's thrown. Incomplete. Ball goes back to Cincinnati. And now the defense is going to be tasked with trying to make another stop as Sean Samuel with the catch for 4. You're not going to pick off Burrow many times. He's only been picked off 4 times all season. I doubt you're going to get 2 in one game on him. So that's probably our 1 turnover for the game that we could potentially get. It's going to be up to the defense the rest of the way to try to force some punts, force maybe a fumble, something, as we're not going to be able to stop this passing game with this weak pass defense, as Mixon underneath has the first down. We are into the second quarter, and there's a laser off the hands of his receiver, incomplete. Now Burrow on second down checks it down to Tyler Boyd, and you forget with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins that Tyler Boyd is a former 1,000-yard receiver in his own right and is a great receiver that can make a defense pay. When the Bengals go 3 deep and now 4 deep with Sean Samuel at tight end, it makes it really hard to cover. As on third down now, Burrow in shotgun will throw a quick slant. T. Higgins once again, and we have him on Jeff Southward. It should be his best matchup. You know, we're not going to put Hobbs on Higgins, obviously, and we don't really care to put Marcus Peters on him. But Southward's having a rough start to this game as Burrow throws across the field, and it's incomplete, broken up. Third down and 12 again now. Can we get a third down stop? Burrow over the middle. No, we cannot. That's going to be a first down inside the 10-yard line to the 6. Burrow outside, caught, incomplete. They say he did not get the feet in bounds. And now Burrow on second and goal, rolls left, just throws it away. A nice conservative play from Burrow. Live to fight another down as Burrow will move right. Nowhere to go with the football, and he just throws it away. Good job from the defense. Bend but don't break. We force the field goal. It's going to be 10-0 Cincinnati, and now it's up to the offense to get something going. It is not just the Bengals offense that will kill you. It is Lou Anarumo and his defense that will make things really difficult on you, and that's why the Bengals are such a complete team, as Jacoby Myers will have a bubble screen caught for 5 yards, and now we hand off. Josh Jacobs bounces it inside, gets brought down by Logan Wilson. It's going to be 3rd and 2. We go Jacobs, and he gets the first down. Barely had it, but now we go play action. Deshaun rolling right. Deshaun will just throw it out of bounds. 2nd down and 10. Deshaun making an adjustment at the line, and Deshaun will drop to throw. And he's going to launch one deep, and Kalen Shanny has a lot of steps, and that's a touchdown, Raiders. Kalen Shanny just obliterated the corner in man-to-man coverage, and when you have Kalen Shanny with no safety help, when it's a foot race, Shanny wins it more often than not, and now it's 10-7 as the Bengals start their drive with a completion for 9 yards, and Burrow hands it to Mixon, who powers his way ahead, gets brought down by Devin Bush, but it is a first down, and now handoff. Mixon fighting again, breaking a tackle, and he gets 5 yards. Burrow making an adjustment at the line on 2nd down, quick throw, and another slant, this time on the other side. And that's going to be T. Higgins for the first down once more. Now underneath, Sean Samuel's wide open. The Raiders sent the blitz and left Samuel open underneath. And Burrow poised in the pocket as he finds Sean Samuel again. And now inside the red zone is the Bengals once more. Throwing outside, caught. This time the feet are in bounds. And it's a touchdown. The 2nd of the half for T. Higgins. And the Bengals respond in no time. It's 17-10 as Jacobs has a 7-yard carry, and we would love to get some points before the half as triple option gets blown up, and they have really stopped Deshaun's running ability in this game so far. 3rd down. We go with a slant route, and it's almost jumped and picked off by Mike Hilton, and now the Raiders go 3 and out, and that is not what you want from this team as they go underneath, and T. Higgins just seems to catch everything contested, as it is another catch for him. Throwing, and that's a beautiful throw. And even the rare times when we have good defense, a perfect throw is going to beat it every time, and Joe Burrow throws perfect passes as he throws underneath. Now Tyler Boyd is just sitting in the flats wide open, and now with under a minute to go, Burrow is driving. Sean Samuel underneath wide open, but we tackle him in bounds, force him to burn some timeouts as they go underneath once again, and Tyler Boyd is open again. The Bengals are playing it surprisingly conservative as they just throw underneath, incomplete. They let the clock run down, don't want to take any risks. They're just going to take the field goal, and it's going to be a 20-7 game at the break. And Joe Burrow has his Bengals in prime position for that #1 seed, as they have already thrown the ball 36 times for 324 yards. They have just little by little dink and dunk their way down the field, and then occasionally hit a big play to Higgins or Sean Samuel. And for the Raiders offense, aside from that big play to Shanny, it's been hard for us to keep a hold on the ball. The Bengals have double the amount of plays as us. And in the second half, if we're going to pull off a 13-point comeback against the Bengals, we're going to need to hold on to this football, make some more big plays, and figure out how to shut down Joe Burrow. It's a lot to ask, but with playoffs on the line, the Raiders got to do it, and we'll see if they can find their way into the wild card in the second half. It's going to be a lot for the Raiders to overcome, but let's see if the second half can prove to be a bit different as we are trying to make this playoff run, as Deshaun hands it off for the second time this half to Josh Jacobs, who loses a yard. Now read option. Deshaun keeps it, and Thomas Deshaun finally finds some space in the run game. They shut him down all first half on the ground, but finally in the second half, his first carry nets him some good yardage. As now we throw a bubble screen outside Kalen Shanny, and Shanny has 10 yards, and Shanny's come up big this game with that touchdown, and now a first down grab as Jacobs handed it off to him, and he gets 4. Now Deshaun driving this offense. We go outside. Michael Mayer runs a man over, and it's enough for a first down into the red zone. Deshaun hands it. Jacobs gets a little held up at the line. Gets 3, not too much, but we will take it as we throw outside. Jacoby Myers has it, and Jacoby Myers down to the 2-yard line. He's injured, but we have it at the 2. Jacobs, handoff, touchdown, Raiders! And in just a few minutes, this second half kicks off, and we got a brand new game potentially. Raiders are only down by 1 score. It's going to be 20-14, and the Bengals need a response, and they need it soon, as this is a good response. That's going to be Joe Mixon for a massive run, and Mixon has it to midfield. They throw outside, caught. Tyler Boyd has it, and it's going to be another first down. Burrow playing just like he did in the first half, as dominant and as accurate as ever, as Burrow drops the throw again. Go outside, Mixon gets a couple, only a yard they say, and Burrow spreading the field. He's going to throw over the middle. That's caught. Touchdown, Tyler Boyd. And fireworks to start the second half as the Bengals, in even quicker fashion, they respond with a touchdown. And it's going to be up to the Raiders to do the same. Jacobs handoff. He gets only a yard. We go play action. Deshaun hit as he's thrown, and he had a minute. If he had another second to throw that football. It's going to be third down, though. And Deshaun tries to throw it, and it's incomplete on the run, on the move outside the pocket. It's going to be 3 and out. Finally, we stop a Bengals slant route, but Burrow's going to spread the field, and he's going to roll left, throw back, and that's going to be T. Higgins, 3rd down and 7. Burrow pumps left and comes back over the middle to Joe Mixon on an angle route, 1st down at midfield. Mixon with the carry, and Marietta's there from the edge to tackle him for just a 3-yard gain, as Burrow will go outside, caught, staying in bounds as Samuel turns it upfield for a 1st down at the 37. Now Mixon will cut it back left, and he meets Marietta in the middle, and now draw play back to Mixon, and he's going to meet Marietta again, but it's going to be a 1st down. Marietta's making the tackles, but no one is really stopping him before he can get past the line. The D-line's just weak, and Burrow now to throw, and so touchdown, Sean Samuel, and the tight end struggles continue for the Raiders as the Bengals take a big lead, and we need something, and we need something now. It's 21 points, and if we can't put up some points on the board here and now, we might be looking at a early end to the season, as Deshaun will float one up top, and it's incomplete. We're going to need a touchdown now, as Deshaun will throw outside, and it's almost picked off by Awuzie. Deshaun's got to be a bit more careful than that. He's going to go outside to Mayer, rolling out to be 4th down and 8. He needs something here on 4th down. He's going to throw outside. Jacoby Myers has it 1st down to the 45-yard line. Deshaun will throw up top, and he gets it out of bounds. I think Shanny had a step again, but it's going to be incomplete. Deshaun will go outside to the left. No, to Sharu, and it's incomplete. 3rd down and 10. Another adjustment at the line. Deshaun to throw. Outside. Picked off. And that's going to be a Chidobe Awuzie. Deshaun gets knocked down. Shanny's in pursuit, but it's going to be a pick six. And the pick six that ends the Raiders' season, it looks like, as Deshaun will throw up top to start the next drive. It's a good play by the offense, but down 42-14 with 10 to go. I mean, you're going to need a miracle at this point to make the comeback as Jacobs loses 3 yards. 2nd down. We go play action. Deshaun will step up into a sack, and that's going to be DJ Reader. 3rd down. And Deshaun to throw. He'll throw outside to Shanny, and it's incomplete. 4th down. Deshaun, does he have a miracle in him? It's going to be picked off, and the Bengals are going to lock up that 1 seed as we now will cut to the highlights, and the Raiders season is going to come to a disappointing end. We started off up and down the stretch. We got ourselves to 8-6. And I think the team just ran out of gas to end the year as Deshaun found himself down way too many points, way too many times throughout the final couple of weeks. And I can't blame him for some of the plays that he tried to make, especially that 5-pick game against the Chiefs. By the time he was throwing all those picks, we were down by 30 points. And now he's throwing a pick when we were down by 28 points. I can't really say I blame him, but the defense just ran out of gas to end the season. We lose our final 3. We allow 100 points in the final 2 weeks of this season. And the Raiders have been knocked out of the playoffs. And it's going to be a disappointing end of the season. But I think overall, if you told us you'd go 8-9 and you'd have a potential Rookie of the Year quarterback who ran for a potential 1,000 yards, passed for another 3,000. If you told us that you hit on a number of your draft picks, I think you'd be pretty happy with how this season went down. It just had a sour end, and tough stretch to end the season as we face the number 1 and number 2 teams in the AFC back-to-back weeks to close the season, and our biggest weakness is trying to cover tight ends, and you face the best tight end of all time, and then you face, Sean Samuel, who's going to make the Pro Bowl as a tight end. It was a tough ask, and we've showed that we're just not ready for that moment. We're not ready for the playoffs, and that's okay. But this team showed a lot of growth from last year. We doubled our win total, and with a lot of 9-win teams making it, the Raiders down at 8 wins are not going to make it. But, for a team that won 8 games, it looks like we're going to have a pretty decent draft pick. And we will just wrap up the season here as we look at what Deshaun did. His numbers do look a little more poor than what they were. I mean, the final 2 games, he threw 7 interceptions. Again, he didn't play well in those final 2 games, but he was just trying to make miracles happen. And, not all the time is the magic going to work. And those 2 games really hurt an overall very nice season in which he did eclipse 1,000 yards. And we had 2 1,000-yard rushers, Josh Jacobs and Thomas Deshaun, combined for about 2,500 yards and 17 touchdowns. Once again, no 1,000-yard receiver for us, but the receiving core definitely looked a lot more explosive with Kalen Shanny, and Jalen Sharu was really nice for a 2nd-round pick, and we're happy with what he did. Defensively, it was about as bad as it can be. It was going to be an uphill battle trying to fix this broken defense from last year, and honestly, a lot of our resources went to upgrading the offense. We spent our top pick on a quarterback. We spent our picks on 2 receivers, offensive linemen. We spent a lot of our assets on trying to get better on offense. And I mean, we went from a bottom 5 offense last year to a top 10 offense this year with the number 1 rushing attack. So the offensive rebuild was successful. Now we got to rebuild the defense, and we brought in Todd Bowles to do that. And we didn't expect it with the lack of personnel we really gave him this year to do that. I'm not blaming Todd Bowles. We didn't give him a lot of help. I mean, we drafted Marietta in the 1st round, but it wasn't Marietta's. He wasn't going to transform the defense. We thought Devin Bush would be better. Devin Bush was awful this year, and I think that goes on. Me as a general manager trying to bring in good players, we did not bring in a good player in Devin Bush, and that is on me to, have better processing and better scouting here. We tried to upgrade the defensive line a little bit. It was hard. There wasn't a lot of options for us. We just got a rotation of guys, and all of them were unspectacular. Max Crosby was incredible, Defensive Player of the Year candidate. He didn't win Defensive Player of the Year, but he was incredible this season. We wanted to upgrade corner more than we did, but unfortunately there wasn't much for us last offseason, and we just ended up getting stuck with Marcus Peters. Drafted Jeff Southward. He was up and down as a rookie. We're looking to upgrade the defense this offseason, and that's going to be the main priority. If we compare a top 10 offense with at least just a middle-of-pack defense, I think we can go somewhere. We should be able to make it to the playoffs. But you're going to be seeing a lot of changes to this defense, and I don't know how many players are really going to be sticking around. I know, obviously, we re-signed Nate Hobbs. We are going to obviously have Marietta, our first-round pick, rolling into next season. We have every intention, even though Tyree Wilson did not have a great season, we at least want to give him next year, because it is hard to, get pressures, get sacks and everything when, they're throwing the ball to wide open guys 24/7. Max Crosby was able to do it, but that's because Max Crosby's a special player, top 5 edge rusher in the league. We're going to give Tyree Wilson another year to just see if he can grow and at least be a nice complementary piece, as you do see here. Number 1 rushing offense. It was a nice year for our offense. The offensive rebuild, like I said, was successful. Defensive rebuild, that's up next. And we'll see if we could maybe just climb to the middle of the pack defense. We really prioritized in the passing defense. The rushing defense was poor. We allowed the most points in the league. A lot of that is heavily inflated by those last 2 games. We did have about the worst yardage defensively throughout the entire season, but a lot of it was hurt by those last 2 weeks. I remember going into those final 2 weeks, we were about 29, finished 32 because of those final 2 weeks, but we got to get better. Another area we got to get better, red zone. You'd think we'd be a little bit better in the red zone as an offense with that run game. Unfortunately, no. But where we do have a bright spot on defense is our red zone defense. We were bending but not breaking. We were forcing a lot of field goals in that inside the 10 area. I do vividly remember a lot of field goals being forced. We even did that against the Bengals where we picked them off in the end zones and then we force a field goal. We got to get better everywhere else though, and turnovers are another thing we got to get a little bit better at too. But overall, I can say not mad at how the season turned out for us. Patrick Mahomes is your MVP, but like I said, it was going to be hard to turn this team around from bottom 5 offense, bottom 5 defense into the playoffs first year. When we were 8-6, I was kind of surprised by it. Thomas LeShong does get your AFC Rookie of the Year at least. I don't know why they separate AFC and NFC, but he's AFC Rookie of the Year, which is nice to see. And as we go through some of the awards, Josh Jacobs, I think, was a little low. Devontae Adams, unfortunately, it'd be nice to have Devontae Adams right about now, so we could really use a number 1 receiver, but we did goodbye him and traded him away before, he became in a situation where he wouldn't be able to contend. He made the playoffs last year with the Colts. And, the DBs for the Bengals were pretty good. Daniel Carlson, best kicker. That's a nice thing for us. That's another positive for us. I'd say we arguably had the best special teams in the league. And when you already had arguably the best kicker and the best punter duo in the league, and then you add the best return man in the league, I'd say that's pretty good for us to, have a guy who had 4 kick return touchdowns last year. But how about now we have our final college football update for the season. I will give you the final college update, Heisman winner, bowl game results, conference championship results. Then we'll go over the Pro Bowl and Super Bowl champion, and then we'll get out of here and get ready for our off season, which will be in the next episode, obviously. So let's get into the college football update right now. This is your college football update and the final one of this season, and we got a lot to talk about. No real specific players as much as we have a lot of results to talk about. And let's get into championship weekend. of college football as we go through ACC title game. Clemson picked up the victory over Miami, drops them out of the top 15. A big matchup between Texas and TCU. TCU will close the season as the only undefeated team in the nation and the number one team in the nation, as Texas, they put up a good fight. It was a high-scoring game, but in the end, TCU was able to pull it out. And now in the Big Ten championship game, we had Minnesota versus Penn State. Penn State's only blemish on the season was Minnesota, and Penn State got their revenge and punched their ticket to the college football playoffs. We had the SEC title game between Georgia and Alabama. It would have taken a lot for one of those two teams to get into the playoffs, regardless of who won. Georgia came out on top. A lot of the dominoes that they needed to fall their way did not. Georgia still ends up at number 6 in the final college football polls. And the big game to talk about, the main event of championship weekend, was the rematch. USC versus UCLA. In the first matchup, USC took down UCLA, and in the second matchup, it was questioned, could UCLA get into the playoffs as a 2-loss team, but those 2 losses being to arguably the best team in the nation? And a lot of people would say no. Well, we didn't have to worry about what the committee would do if that happened, because UCLA pulled it off and Raleigh Cordula and Lance Bowen go down. And a surprising outcome to many, as some didn't think UCLA would be able to pull it off, but UCLA punches their ticket to the college football playoffs. And USC, who had been number 1 basically all season, drops to number 2, and they gotta be very unhappy about that. As I take a look to the right side of the screen, you see the Heisman Trophy candidacy, and in 5th place, Angelo Hayden. I mean, we would be talking about him a whole heck of a lot more as being the best receiver in the nation. If he was the best receiver in the nation, he just happened to be in the same class as probably the best receiver prospect we've had in well over a decade. Dexter Parker, despite his good season, is in 4th place. Darrell Parker, leading the undefeated TCU Horned Frogs, he gets 3rd place. And the top 2 is USC players, and it was a USC runaway as Lance Bowen and Raleigh Cordula were fighting each other for that Heisman Trophy award. But in the end, it was Raleigh Cordula pulling off a Heisman victory, the first receiver since Devontae Smith to win it, and with over 1,700 yards and 17 touchdowns in 13 games. It's no surprise to see why one of the best seasons a wide receiver has ever had in college football. He runs away with that trophy, and USC will be heading back to, correct me if I'm wrong, but for the first time ever in college football, I think this will be the first time 3 times in one season a matchup will be taking place. USC versus UCLA will be in the first round of the college football playoffs. But as we talk about the bowl games, let's get into some of those bowl results. The Peach Bowl seen Ohio State take down LSU number 8 versus number 14, and Ohio State, after some early season struggles where they lost 2 of 3 games and had an upset loss to Northern Illinois, they managed to end the season on a high note, 11-2 with a bowl victory. The Orange Bowl seen Clemson at number 9 taking on number 11 Michigan, and Michigan pulled off the victory as the 2 teams from last year who were very high up there in the polls. Clemson, obviously the national champions from last year, fell off a little bit without Trombetta and Arwell Gannady and the rest of that defense, but Michigan is able to pick up a bowl victory there. The Fiesta Bowl seen Texas at number 7 take on Alabama at number 10, and despite it being a very defensive-oriented battle, we had Texas pulling out the victory as it was their run game and their offensive line dominant as ever, picking up the victory to seal the game with their run attack. The Sugar Bowl seen a big time, the biggest matchup of the bowl games, non-playoff games, I guess I should say, was Iowa State versus Georgia, and full of NFL prospects is Iowa State, and they picked up the victory, in Iowa State with a BCS Bowl victory, a massive one, and Iowa State's really turned into a powerhouse these past 2 years, and it's great to see some new teams getting into the mix. And speaking of new teams getting into the mix, we had to do something a little different for the Rose Bowl this year. Minnesota was the runner-ups in the Big Ten, so they obviously made it. But for the Pac-12, both the top teams made the playoffs, and we did not want to put in, a 23rd ranked team. We didn't want to throw in a 8-win team in there to get potentially slaughtered by Minnesota or whatever. No disrespect to the rest of the Pac-12. So we made the bold decision to give Northern Illinois the bowl game. Northern Illinois, obviously, it's not the tradition, but when both the Pac-12 teams, the top teams, the representatives from the Pac-12 are in the playoffs, you got to go and find some of the best teams elsewhere, and Northern Illinois was the best of the rest. And at 12-1, taking on the 10-3 Golden Gophers, Northern Illinois picks up a historic bowl victory. And I do have to tell you that while this is stuff that's going to be leading into next year, Northern Illinois off the back of a Rose Bowl victory and taking down one of the Big Ten's very best, will be joining the Big Ten next year. And we will be seeing a lot more of Northern Illinois versus teams like Ohio State and Minnesota. So a historic victory for Northern Illinois and a real program turnaround for them as they will be joining the Big Ten next year. But as we get into our main event, the college football playoffs, let's stay in the Big Ten as the undefeated TCU Horned Frogs took on the Penn State Nittany Lions. And last year, you watched as number 1 Michigan went down to number 4 Oregon. This year, not the same, as TCU rolls to 14-0. They take down Penn State as Darrell Parker led the game-winning touchdown drive, and he evaded a Dexter Parker sack to throw that touchdown. So Dexter Parker, he might be a first-round pick next year, but going to be kicking himself for that one. And we get into round 3, USC, UCLA, Raleigh Cordula versus Angelo Hayden, Raleigh Cordula versus Ellis Travis, who's going to be covering him, Lance Bowen. Who won the rubber match? It was USC punching their ticket to the national championship, and considering Angelo Hayden and Raleigh Cordula are as good as it gets, it was the exact battle, the exact shootout that you predicted it would be. And I feel like if UCLA, Byron Rohit were able to stay in college another year, I think the result may have went another way, and I would have loved to see, Rohit versus Bowen, Cordula versus Hayden. But USC just had the better quarterback, had the better receiver, had the better offense, and they take on TCU in the national championship. Which means the 2 top quarterbacks in the upcoming draft class faced off. Darrell Parker, Lance Bowen, 2-3 in the Heisman, 14-0 versus 13-1. The winner of the national championship is the USC Trojans, as Raleigh Cordula caps off his historic college career with about 2,000 yards because he went crazy in those games for the playoffs. And he spent all last offseason recruiting and trying to get himself a quarterback to come to USC. He found one in Lance Bowen. He found probably the top quarterback in next year's draft in Lance Bowen. And those two ride themselves all the way to a national championship. 13-1 to 14-1 goes USC, and the Trojans reign supreme. And that will do it for the college football update for this season. USC is on top, and we'll see where all the players I talked about, all 21 of them I believe, will be going in this upcoming draft. I will see you all for the offseason and for the draft. Now let's get back to the current day NFL. And that current day NFL takes us to the Pro Bowl. And in the Pro Bowl, the Raiders had themselves 2 Pro Bowlers, as you see. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. The game did not recognize one of our Pro Bowlers, and I will not stand for it. There's no way that in the return section, Kalen Shaney is not a Pro Bowler. And I don't care what the game tells me. Kalen Shanny was a Pro Bowler this year, so that's why I'm counting Kalen Shanny. I think you can understand why a guy with 4 kick return touchdowns should be making the Pro Bowl, but Kalen Shanny and Max Crosby are the 2 Pro Bowlers for us. And as we look ahead to the Super Bowl, it is going to be the Eagles versus the Ravens. The Ravens pulling off the upset over both the Bengals and the Chiefs to find themselves into the Super Bowl against the Eagles once more. And as we wrap up this season, the Eagles are your Super Bowl champions. Miles Jack comes off the bench and comes off a retirement to win Super Bowl MVP. Pretty weird, pretty impressive though. That will do it though for this season. I hope you all enjoyed this Raiders season, and we have a big off season in front of us as the Raiders try to rebuild this defense and make a run for the playoffs next year. I will see you all in the next one.